Hey guys, Trip here. A few weeks ago, I asked you guys to tell me how you would improve upon Skyrim. I received tons of smart, interesting, and creative ideas, but I realized I never told you guys what I would do. Like I always say, I try not to criticize something without suggesting ways in which it can improve itself. So today, I want to talk to you about how I would improve Skyrim, particularly the Civil War questline. The Civil War questline of Skyrim is buggy, repetitive, short, and just plain boring as far as I'm concerned. Looking at the game's files, it's clear that huge portions and entire features of the questline were cut out of the final release. A lot of these features are restored in mods like the Civil War Overhaul, but I feel like no one has solved the core issues with this questline. In my opinion, to fix the Civil War questline, you need to take a few notes from Fallout New Vegas. Now, I've made it clear numerous times that Fallout New Vegas is my favorite role-playing game of all time. In part of this is due to its open-ended, free-form, choose-your-own-adventure style questline. In this episode, we're going to talk about what New Vegas did right, and how it can be applied to the Civil War questline of Skyrim. I think these changes would improve not only the Civil War questline, but the game as a whole. So, in New Vegas, you have to pick a side in a war, and gather followers from various factions to help you in a final battle. The player gets to choose which factions are worth allying with, which should be ignored, and which need to be destroyed. Based on your playstyle, allegiances, and prior choices, some factions will be harder to align with than others, and some may be impossible to get on your side at all. Why not apply a similar story arc in the Civil War questline of Skyrim? In Skyrim, you have almost an identical setup as New Vegas. You have to pick a side in a civil war. You also have several factions that exist within the world. Some the player can even join. Unlike New Vegas, the factions in Skyrim don't seem to care at all about the civil war happening in their backyard. They all conveniently refuse to take a side, or even have an opinion on the matter. They seem to treat the bloody war going on in their country as a fleeting political squabble and little else. Not only does this make the player care less about the Civil War, but it's a huge missed opportunity in my opinion. So let's fix that. In my vision of the Civil War, each faction in the game starts off neutral, but similarly to Fallout New Vegas, they lean toward one side of the war or the other. It's up to the player to pick and choose which factions he wants to join his cause. Some factions will be harder to convince than others based on your player's race, speech skill, playstyle, allegiance, and prior actions. Being the leader of any of these factions will make things easier, of course. Through a lot of effort and perhaps a few quests, the player could enlist the help of the Dark Brotherhood, for example, to assassinate either Tullius or Ulfric, making the Civil War much easier to win. The Orc strongholds could be united under one banner to drive out the Stormcloaks, or the Imperials, depending on which side you're on. The Forsworn could also play a large, albeit optional, role in the questline as well. Now, the player can side with the Forsworn in the questline The Forsworn Conspiracy, but in the original game, nothing ever comes from your alliance and it's never referenced again. Let's change that. After completing the Forsworn Conspiracy, if the player sides with the Forsworn, he will be permanently expelled from Markarth, but the Forsworn will become friendly. After this, you can offer the Forsworn their own kingdom if they side with you. The player will have to convince either Tullius or Ulfric that this is a good idea, as the Forsworn are renowned for their brutality and dark magic. Not only that, but the Forsworn will immediately murder both the Jarl of Markarth and the Silverblood family, effectively taking control of the Reach for the rest of the game. It will be incredibly difficult to convince your faction leader that this is a good idea. If you do manage to side with the Forsworn, however, they will be the single strongest ally you'll have in the war. Not only will this give the Forsworn faction a satisfying story arc, but it would introduce difficult, challenging strategic decisions into the questline, as well as permanently changing an entire region of the game. Now there's one more faction I haven't mentioned yet, possibly the most infamous faction in the entire game. The Thalmor. Now it may be a bit tricky to get them on your side, but not impossible. We know the Thalmor is manipulating Ulfric into fighting the Empire, and we know the Thalmor want to keep the war going as long as possible without a winner. The Thalmor would never side with the Talos-loving Stormcloaks, so that's off the table. But how could we convince the Thalmor to side with the Empire? I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think I came up with a solution. Now, this gets into some lore stuff, so bear with me. The Dragonborn is said to be blessed by Akatosh himself. The Altmer worship Akatosh as the God King Ariel. If your character is an Altmer, you can convince Elenwen that you are blessed by Ariel himself. You can tell her that you're his prophet, that you speak with his voice, that the dragons will soon come for the Dominion once they're done with Skyrim, and that the only way to keep them at bay is for a united Skyrim to fight them together. If your speech skill is high enough, the entirety of the Thalmor will immediately side with you, helping you take the fight to the Stormcloaks and eventually the dragons. So now we have a fitting army behind us, to help us take the fight to the enemy and bring peace back to Skyrim. Each faction you get to join me will send reinforcements for each Civil War battle, and occasionally special events will happen based on which factions you've recruited. The Forsworn can summon powerful Daedra to destroy the enemy, for example, and the Thalmor can employ advanced magics to weaken the enemy before you even arrive at the battlefield. Maybe, if you're about to lose a battle, there's a chance the Dark Brotherhood will appear out of the shadows and assassinate the enemy soldiers. The possibilities are pretty endless here. So that's all nice, but what really needs to be changed about the Civil War is its aftermath. Now, this is something that I don't think New Vegas did well either. In the original game, the Civil War never really ends. You defeat either Ulfric or Tullius, but no High King is ever crowned. Something similar happens in New Vegas, where the game ends before you can really see any of the changes that happened after the war, and that's somewhat understandable, but it made me feel like I accomplished nothing. So how do we fix that? Well, honestly, I could make a whole video on how the world could change based on who you sided with during the Civil War, but let's keep it simple for now. A High King will finally be crowned, perhaps after an additional questline. You'll see increased patrols on the road, several ruined forts will be rebuilt and turned into actual bases for the new government, and people will treat you as either a war hero or a criminal, depending on who you're talking to. The various factions you sided with will increase their power and influence, and you'd actually get to see Skyrim slowly improve over time. In the end, I feel like the Civil War was a missed opportunity, and while something like this would have been difficult to implement, I think it would have been worth it. Oh, and if anyone out there has modding experience and thinks they can turn these ideas into a reality, feel free. I'd love to see the Civil War expanded upon in a meaningful way. What do you guys think? What games would you like to see improved? How would you improve it? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.